How's it going? Ryan here at Etrailer.com. Today on our 2014 Ford Explorer, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Etrailer.com Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver. Many Explorer owners use their SUVs to do a little bit of everything. So whether that means you're towing a trailer, maybe throwing on a cargo carrier to take the family on vacation, just hauling around some bikes to go riding every now and again, this hitch is going to allow you to enjoy all those activities. Now the main thing that really separates this hitch from all the others is its finish. It's going to be a matte black powder coat finish, so it's going to stand up really well against the elements. You're not really going to have to worry about it getting scratched up or anything like that. And since it is matte black, it does match the back of our bumper here really nicely. It really just helps that hitch blend in. And even though you can see this portion of the hitch here, how it contours along the bottom of the bumper, and since it matches nice, you're really not even going to be able to notice it on the back of your Explorer. Now, one of the big questions that we get whenever you're putting a hitch on the back of your Explorer is if your hands-free liftgate assist is still going to work with that hitch in place. Well, on our particular Explorer today, we don't have that feature, but from my experience in the past, putting hitches on that do have it, it is going to work. The only thing you're going to kind of have to watch out for is you're just going to have to get your foot closer to the hitch on each side for that liftgate to open. Now, one of the things I do like is where the end of our receiver tube comes to, and it's going to set just past the edge of our bumper here. And so this is going to work really well for folding accessories. It's going to give us that clearance we need to put them in that stored upright position, and it's going to give us enough room to easily get our ball mount in and out of the hitch. Now, since this is a Class 3 hitch, it's going to have that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening, which is really going to give us a lot of different options as far as our accessories go. It's also going to have a reinforced collar for extra strength. And it's going to have that standard size 5/8 pinhole. Now keep in mind, a pin and clip does not come included, but if you need one, you can find it here at Etrailer. It's going to have plate-style safety chain openings, which are somewhat close to the pin and clip, but they are going to be large enough that we can use just about any size hook without really having to worry about any interference issues. As far as the hitch's weight capacities go, we're going to have a 400-pound maximum gross tongue weight rating. So that's going to be the amount of weight that's pushing down on the hitch. So that's great for those 1 to 4 bike racks and many different types of cargo carriers. As far as the maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, it's going to be 4,000 pounds. So that's going to be the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. So that's the weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have on it. Now, this can be used with the weight distribution system, which is a separate component, but if you are using that, the weight capacities do increase. The maximum gross tongue weight rating goes up to 500 pounds, and the maximum gross trailer weight rating increases to 5,000 pounds. And I do always like to recommend to check in your Explorer's owner's manual to make sure that your Ford can pull how much weight. Now, if you do plan on doing a little bit of towing, I would recommend picking up some trailer wiring like we have here today. And this is going to transfer the lighting signals from the back of your Explorer to the back of your trailer, keeping you safe and legal. So overall, hitch is really going to help us enjoy our activities or get our job done. Now, comparing it to some of the other ones, for example, the Curt, those are going to be very similar. However, that Curt is going to have a gloss black finish. So depending on your personal preference, I mean, my opinion, I really like the matte finish, especially with these unpainted bumpers, how they match really well. However, if I had a painted bumper that was a little more shiny, I think I'd probably go with the Curt, and just for kind of a more matching look. Now I'm going to give you a couple of measurements, and you're going to use these to help figure out which hitch-mounted accessories to get. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 16 inches. You're going to use that to figure out if you need to get a ball mount with either a drop or a rise. From the center of the hitch pinhole to the outermost edge of our rear bumper, that's going to be about 5 inches. And you're going to use that measurement to figure out if any folding accessories that you might have can be stored in the upright position without making contact with the bumper. A lot of our customers said that they're actually really surprised on how easy the hitch was to get installed. And I'd have to agree with them. It's relatively straightforward, and you shouldn't have any issues doing it at home, in the garage, or even your driveway. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and put it on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to need to lower our exhaust to give us a little bit more room to work. But before we do that, what I like to do is just take a strap, just kind of run it from side to side. And that way that exhaust will have a little bit of support. To get our exhaust lowered, we're going to need to remove the rubber isolators that hold it in place. We're going to have one just behind our tailpipe on each muffler. And so what you do is you kind of spray them down with some penetrating oil or some soapy water to make it a little easier. Then you can just take a pry bar and pry that rubber portion off of the metal hanger. And if we follow our exhaust pipes forward towards the front of our car, right here where they Y off, there's going to be a hanger back here too that we can also remove just to give us that little bit of extra room. Now there's going to be a bracket here that's bolted to our frame that's actually holding up our rubber hangers, and we're going to remove these brackets. So I'm going to take a 18mm socket and pop those two bolts out. Once we have this out, the other side is set up the exact same way, so we'll just do that over there as well. What I like to do once we have those factory bolts out is clean out the threads and the weld nuts. So I went ahead and just kind of sprayed in some penetrating oil. We can take a tube brush like this one and just run it in and out of there just to help clean out any debris or dirt that might be trapped inside. So now I'd like to point out our attachment points as well as our hardware combinations that's going to hold our hitch up into place. Over here on the passenger side, we're going to have a total of 3 attachment points. We're going to use these 2 threaded holes, and the hardware that's going to go on those is a 1 3/4 hex bolt, as well as a conical tooth washer. And so when we put this in, you'd have your hitch up here against the frame, and you want to make sure that the teeth on the conical tooth washer are going to face up towards the hitch. So it'll kind of go in like that. So that covers these 2 holes. There's one more on this passenger side, and we're going to be using this hole. Now the hardware that we're going to use is a carriage bolt, a spacer block, and a flange nut. So the way we're going to get this hardware in is the reverse fishwire technique. So we're going to take the spacer block and put that over the coiled end of our fish wire. We're going to thread that carriage bolt onto that coiled end. We're going to feed the carriage bolt in through that opening. I'll push it up there a little bit, as well as a spacer block. We kind of work it around in there until we get that carriage bolt to drop through just like this. And on the driver's side, we're just going to have 2 attachment points. We're going to be using these factory weld nuts, and the hardware, again, is just a 1 3/4 hex bolt and a conical tooth washer. Now before we put our hitch up into place, we do need to transfer the rubber isolator hangers from our factory brackets over to our hitch brackets. And so we'll just pop that off the factory bracket. So what we're going to do is take our rubber isolator and the long hex bolt, put a flat washer on it, push that through the hanger, through this opening in the hitch. We're going to put a flat washer on this side, followed up with a nylon lock nut. Get that started, and then we can tighten it down. Now whenever we tighten this down, what we're trying to do is get the rubber portion to sit up nice and flush with our bracket here. But you don't want to tighten it down so much that this gets really smushed. You just want a little bit of tension on it. That way you're able to still somewhat move this around. So just about like that. You can see it's a little crunched, but not too bad, and you can still freely move it around. Now the other side set up the same way, so we'll do the same process over there. Now with an extra set of hands, we can put our hitch into position. So we'll go over the exhaust, and what we're going to do is actually put our exhaust into the rubber hangers, and we can kind of raise our hitch and the exhaust all as one, and it just makes it a lot easier instead of trying to plug these in whenever the hitch is already in place. Slide them over the hangers. On the passenger side, take your fish wire and run it through the corresponding hole in the hitch there. And we're able to lift everything up. And we're going to want to get one of our bolts at least hand tight on each side. That way the hitch will be supported while we work on the rest of the hardware. Now when it comes to the carriage bolt up here on the passenger side, you can carefully remove your fish wire. To make it a little easier to get our flange nut started, what you can do is just take a flat blade screwdriver and kind of put some pressure on that bolt to keep it steady. Then you're easily able to get that flange nut started. Now with all of our hardware in place and hand tight, we can go ahead and snug it all down. With everything tight, we can come back with a torque wrench and tighten it to the amount specified in the instructions. Now all that's left is to rehang this exhaust hanger. Just kind of line it up by hand and slide it back into position. And then we can grab our strap and move it out of the way. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Etrailer.com Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver on our 2014 Ford Explorer.